Stephanie, thank you. New tonight at 6, cross-examination. A former state police detective back on the stand, questioned today for hours on day 12 of the Michelle Troconis trial.
Channel 3 New Haven Bureau Chief Matt McFarland continues our coverage from Stamford Superior Court.
First thing this morning, the court had to replace another juror after one said they had an emergency out of the country and they needed to leave Connecticut today. So now we're down to 6 jurors and 2 alternates after 2 were replaced earlier after getting dismissed. Once that was done, testimony focused on those 2 lengthy state police interviews.
Michelle just didn't tell you that she didn't know. She offered to help you search, didn't she?
In those words, she did, yes.
Retired State Police Detective John Kimball getting peppered by Michelle Troconis' defense attorney about whether or not she knew what happened to missing mom Jennifer Farber-Dulos and any role her then boyfriend Fotis Dulos played.
She told you that she first learned that Jennifer Dulos was missing when the Farmington police came to their house that night, correct?
That's what she told us, yes.
Her attorney stressing that was after Troconis and Dulos were captured on cameras in Hartford back on May 24, 2019. As Dulos threw out bags of evidence, police believe he killed his wife earlier that morning.
At no time did Ms. Troconis ever say that she knew anything about the disappearance of what Fotis Dulos was up to.
When it comes to those handwritten timelines, previously referred to by prosecutors as alibi scripts, Schoenhorn pointed out they weren't a complete list of everything his client did, including how the couple stopped at Starbucks that evening.
It didn't mention anything about Fotis Dulos going jogging that night, did it?
No.
But during redirect, prosecutors asked Kimball about the fact those timelines also never mentioned anything about that trip to Hartford.
Found it to be strange because it was potentially incriminating information and it was omitted.
Along with other changes in her statements.
Isn't it true that sometimes suspects think they can talk their way out of something and speak with the police?
Absolutely, yes.
Sometimes suspects will lie to protect people they care about. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Testimony will pick back up tomorrow morning at 10 when prosecutors recall State Police Sergeant Michael Butin. Reporting at Stamford Superior Court, Matt McFarland, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.